give you a verbal image of life, and we are every day. People like to welcome you all to the show. Like to thank my listeners and the comments that they have, and I really appreciate it. Especially Miss Smith, I appreciate you. Hastings, appreciate you. Marcus Mood, you know what I'm saying? Low Key, Brother Jamal, Pebbles, just everybody that tunes in, right? I really appreciate it. So even though that month that they give us called in February, titled Black History Month, Black History is 365 because this is part 2 of Islam in America. And these subjects are so big to where 28 days, 29 days is just, it's not long enough, right? So we're going to jump right in. It says, Puritans were neither beloved by nor necessarily representative of New Englanders. Reason being is because the Puritans or the Protestants or quote unquote the forefathers, they left England because they wanted they freedom to worship as they saw fit. They wanted something to be more closer to the tenets that were in the Bible. Right, so they got fed up. They left, came to the Americas to establish their way of worship, but keep in mind that Islam was here already in the Americas and was a practicing religion amongst the Africans that they brought over here, as well as the Hispaniola natives. You know, not the Spaniards, but the Hispaniolas. Those were Moors too. Now, when you see this, the picture that accompanies this particular podcast, you'll see the brother in the back with the Muslim headgear with George Washington. Yeah, I believe his name was Abul or Rockman or something to that effect, if I can recall. But he was one of the advisors or whatnot. He was one of the ones who were giving knowledge and wisdom to George Washington. That's why on those ancient pictures they painted him in the background. So I just wanted to share that with you all. All right, so Puritans were neither beloved by nor necessarily representative of New Englanders. The details of Al Rockman's story might be unusual, and that's A.L. Rockman is R-A-H-M-A-N. The details of Al Rockman's story might be unusual, but his experience as an American Muslim facing an Anglo-Protestant monopoly bent on manufacturing a Christian country is not. Islam developed in part to exist above the great linguistic and cultural differences of Asia and Africa. Al Rockman spoke six languages. Anglo-American evangelical Protestantism is, by contrast, a younger, narrower religion. It took shape in the culturally circumscribed region of the North Atlantic and in a dynamic relationship with both capitalism and nationalism. It aims not at transcending heterogeneity, but rather to homogenesis. Now, we want to get to where it says dynamic relationship with both capitalism and nationalism. So one of the first nationalists was the Protestants. You know how they try to say, oh, the black nationalists is this and that. Come on, when you had the Protestants, that was one of your first nationalist movements within America, and I'm just saying they don't bring that up. How many people share Al Rockman's basic experience? How many Muslims were there in America between 1500 and 1900? How many in North America? Sylvain A. Diouf is the great historian of the subject, and what is probably a conservative figuring, she writes in Servants of Allah, and this was in 1998, There were hundreds of thousands of Muslims in the Americas, and that may be all we can say about numbers and estimates. Of the 10 million or more enslaved Africans sent to the New World, more than 80% went to the Caribbean or Brazil. Now, check that out. More than 80% went to the Caribbean or Brazil. Now, they had the Taino tribes in the Caribbeans. They had the natives that was in Brazil that were, or the Arawakan tribes that were already here, which was heavenly melanated tribes, right? So, meaning, don't let the division of divide and conquer separate the people, and then they put them against each other and say, well, I'm Taino, I'm Arawakan, I'm Brazilian, you know what I mean? When basically you are melanated people, and that's why, as I always revert back to, that's why when Gangazuma came and amongst the native Brazilians, they formed a coalition and overthrew the Portuguese. Put it like that. Okay. Now, then it says 80% went to the Caribbean or Brazil. Nonetheless, many more Muslims came to early America than the Britons, arriving during the height of Puritan colonization. The high point of Puritan settlement during the Great Migration between 1620 and 1640 saw just 21,000 Britons come to North America. Perhaps 25% of these came as servants whose Puritan sentiments cannot be presumed. By 1760, New England was home to at most 70,000 Congregationalists, the Church of New England Puritans. Congregationalists, Puritans, they building and they shaping it based on their ideology concerning their religion. But keep in mind, Islam was already here being practiced amongst the Moors, amongst the slaves. Despite these relatively small numbers, the Puritans succeeded in becoming the schoolmasters to a nation. Yet in some respects, New England is also the loser in the rise of the U.S. It reached its peak of economic and political influence in the 18th century. Despite its prominent role in U.S. independence, it has never been the center of economic or political power either in the British colonies in North America, nor in Greater America, nor even in the U.S. Seen simply as one of many New World colonies, New England was in notable respect an outsider. It was demographically unique, religiously sectarian, politically anomalous, and from the perspective of Europe, economically secondary. Even in the phrase Puritan New England can be misleading. Fish, timber, and maritime commerce, specifically their trade with the West Indian plantations. So they traded fish, timber, and maritime commerce with the West Indian plantations. Not religion made life in 17th and 18th century New England what it was. It was the trade. Puritans were neither beloved by nor necessarily representative of New Englanders. In the early 17th century Massachusetts Bay Colony, for example, a listener once heckled a Puritan minister, interrupting his sermon with, "New England's business is cod, not God." Meaning saying New England business is what we catching out these seas and making money while you coming over here trying to push a religion. You know, they were already at odds with each other. Some of the same qualities that made the Puritans so unusually helped them excel at writing history. They were exceptionally adept in literacy, education, textual exegesis, So I'm going to spell that for you. EXEGESIS. And institution building. These skills enabled them distinctly among Americans to rise to the challenge of addressing what the socialist Roger Friedland has called the problem of collective representation in the modern world. Before modern nations, histories of peoples had been genealogies. A people were those who descended from an ancestor. See, if you considered a tribe or ancestor, whatever that ancestor tribe was, or came from, or whatever that ancestor's tribe was, then you were part of the tribe, and it stayed locked in that back in those days. That was how they identified you. Abraham or Aeneas, Aeneas, for example, and thus naturally related. The ideal of the modern nation presented a new problem. A nation is supposed to be one common people who share fundamental, even inherent qualities, but not in ancestry, nor a king or a queen. So they saying a nation, you got fundamental ideas, but in order for a nation to succeed, you can't have a king or a queen. Is what their belief was in shaping the construct of America. At the end of the 18th century, almost no one quite knew how to represent a common people. In North America, the Puritans came the closest. But see, what they got to explain, what they have to say is that no one had the skill to organize a large body of people under one common goal. Let's put it like that. Still having problems with that today, right? Let's see. In North America, the Puritans came the closest. They taught and wrote of themselves not as a common people, but a chosen people, a people not sharing descent from a Lord, but following the Lord, for rendering the history of a heterogeneous population into a national unity. It was by no means a perfect fit, but it would have to do. The Puritan effect has excluded much, including the long and enduring presence of Muslims and Islam in America, as well as some of the integrity and poignancy is poignacy of the Puritan experience on its own terms. Distinct from its contributions to U.S. national history, the domination of the Puritan institution has given colonial New England an outsized role. Over 2 centuries, Moors have changed a great deal, but great 19th century historians such as Francis Parkman and Henry Adams share with their 20th and 21st century successors Perry Miller, Bernard Bailyn, and Jill Lepore a commitment to finding America and the national origins of the U.S. in 18th century New England. One of the most perverse feats of Puritan history writing has been to claim the mantle of religious freedom as some Anglo-Protestant commitment. In fact, Puritans and evangelical Protestants in America have always conjured and persecuted religious enemies: Native Americans, Catholics, Jews, communists, Muslims, and sometimes especially other Protestants. Neither John Winthrop, Cotton Mather, nor any part of the Puritan squirearchy suffered real religious persecution. Posing power as Anglo-Protestant in America have is not entirely compatible with the basis for some of the claims to moral authority of Christianity, nor is it wholly consistent with the ideal of America as a land of religious freedom, an asylum for the persecuted, as Tom Paine put it in 1776. Basically saying that, hey, you get persecuted in New England, come on down to the Americas. We just took some lands from the natives, and you can flee your persecution. You can flee your baggage and come over here to the New World and be a new you. Basically, what they're saying. If there is any religious group who represents the best version of religious freedom in America, It is Muslims such as Zamori and Al Rahman. And Zamori, as I stated, that was Mustafa Zamori. He was who came through shipwrecked, and he eventually made his way down to the Galveston, the Gulf of Mexico. He was responsible for finding Arizona and New Mexico, Moore. Zamora and Al Rahman. They came to America under conditions of genuine oppression and struggled for the recognition of their religion and the freedom to practice it. In contrast to Anglo-Protestants, Muslims in America have demurred the impulse to tyrannize others, including Native Americans. The most persistent consequence of the Puritan effect has been a continuing commitment to producing a past focus on how the actions, usually courageous and principled, of Anglo-Protestants, almost always in New England and the Chesapeake, led to the United States of America, its government and its institutions. So they're saying if you go back and research the Puritans' mind and belief, well, they came over here and shaped the thinking of American and how we have it today. That's why you'll hear two terms. They'll say founding fathers or forefather. Forefather was another term for Puritans. Okay. The truth is that the history of America is not primarily an Anglo-Protestant story any more than the history of the West more broadly. It might not be as straightforward or self-evident matter what exactly constitutes the West, but the more global era in history inaugurated by the European colonization of the Western Hemisphere must be a significant part of it. If the West means in part the Western Hemisphere or North America, Muslims have been part of its societies from the very beginning. Conflicts over what the American nation is and who belongs to it it's a minimal argument, right? Answers remain open to a range of possibilities and are vitally important. Historically, Muslims are Americans, as originally American as Anglo-Protestants. In many ways, America's early Muslims are exemplars of the best practices and ideas of American religion. Any statement or suggestion to the contrary, no matter how well-meaning, deserves from either intended or inherited chauvinism. Chauvinism. Any statement or suggestion to the contrary, no matter how well-meaning, deserves from either intended or inherited chauvinism. And I'm thinking chauvinism is dealing with male chauvinism, but they're saying chauvinism in the content of discriminating against someone's religion. You can be a religious chauvinist. Okay, it makes sense to me. But basically what it's saying is the ban that Trump had on Muslims or blocking Muslims from coming to this country, that's to say, what if President Obama was saying, well, look, we're going to block all Protestant Christians from coming into the Americas. You know, when we got evidence showing that the Muslims were in America before the Protestants, before the Puritans. And the Puritans is who shaped this country. Although to be fair in a sense, in some of their shaping, there is Islamic undertones in the shaping of this country. And that's what the historians didn't sit down and tell your President Trump the history of America and Muslims in America. You just can't go around saying certain things because these people were Muslims, were here before you and your people were here. You know, Islam was present within a lot of the Native American tribes. They were speaking Arabic. You ought to see some of the names of the when the Cherokee signed that treaty. I forgot the year, but you had a Mahmoud on there, a treaty, a Muhammad on there, an Abdul in the treaty, and these were some of the Native Americans, but some of the natives in America were Moors too. Meaning that they had a working system, a working government, action, trade, trading posts was set in the Americas before the arrival of any European. And so when you try to cover certain facts up, they have a way of getting out. And even if you're not trying to cover the facts up and you just didn't know or you wasn't aware of the history, it has a way of coming out, because why? When you try to oppress a people, it's their obligation, it's their duty to say, hey, no, wait a minute, look at me. This is what I contributed to society. You can't lay that title on me as being lazy or shiftless or non-productive or not producing anything to further the advancement of the society. Look, what you want to go? You want to talk about the traffic light? You want to talk about the cotton gin? What do you want to talk about? What name? You want to talk about some black inventions? You want to talk about George Washington Carver? What? All it meaning we shouldn't, but we have to prove our self-worth in this country because we have someone with the pen that's trying to create a false narrative concerning a great people. But we're wrapping up this whole series that I did. The other day I did the one on coronavirus because I had to do that because, man, people are losing their minds, So we had to, meaning be cautious, wash your hands, get your sanitizer, get your disinfectant spray and whatnot. But, take it easy. But, so we wrapping up this series. As you know, I had Brother Cliff on here. Speaking about the census, Brother Low Key, Brother Jamal. I did shows by myself discussing. I even had Brother Matt on the show, but I did shows myself trying to lay the foundation of blacks in the Americas. And I'm talking about North, South, and Central America because at one time it was just the Americas. But we've been split up. But you have to do that because you don't want people from the Dominican and people from Brazil and Puerto Rico and black Mexicans from Veracruz and the quote unquote African Americans in America to turn around and look at each other and say, look at that Brazilian, look at that Dominican, look at that Afro-American, and fail to realize you are sharing the same ancestors. Puerto Rico too. You know what I mean? We all sharing the same ancestors. No, I take that back. A lot of us are sharing the same ancestors, but it was true that the what they call Spaniard, the European Spaniard who came and conquered the native indigenous people, they did change the skin texture, and we did take on their language of Spanish, and so they did use that as a tool of separation. So now, just like you had at one time, if I'm a light-skinned Latino or Hispanic, then I'm closer to white, or I want to be accepted by the colonizer, then I have to turn my back on the darker-skinned brothers and sisters who speak Spanish, and actually that's in the same family. Your cousins, your brothers, your grandparents, your sisters, your nieces. You know, you don't want to deal with them because, let's face it, you've been taught to be ashamed of your own people who share the same blood. Wow. You know, that shows you how sick the mind of the one who taught racism. But he didn't he didn't care nothing about skin tone and texture. No, he just thought it would be a good tool to divide and conquer, to rule over both parts. I mean, it was wickedly clever. You got to give it. It worked. You know, but as Minister Farrakhan said, that it's unraveling. But so the process of it unraveling, and then the process of rebuilding it back up. But the key word is all of that is a process, and when you go through a process, you have to be patient until the process is complete. You can't rush the flow, because when you rush, you're going to make a mistake, or you're going to miss an intricate detail. And so when you miss that detail and things are moving forward in time, you don't have the time, a lot of times, to go back and correct what should have been dealt with in the first place when it first arisen. You know, and that's a skill, but that's something that everyone has to acquire, to where you take care of something today and don't put it off for tomorrow, because by the time you get to it tomorrow, you're already behind, and you're against the 8 ball, and things are already stacked against you, because now you're trying to work yesterday's work along with today's work, and now you're playing catch up. And when you're playing catch up, you get stressed, you get frustrated. You know what I mean? You get all outside yourself. You get irritable. You know what I mean? Then you start looking for relief. And then those who you thought was your friends and they were around you, you want them to share some of the burden so they can light your load and help you out and fix it. And then when they say, well, no, I got something else to do, then some people get mad and say, what? That famous line. Remember that time remember that time in high school? Remember that time back in the day when I did this and now you can't, I need you and now you can't come? I mean, so just don't put yourself in that position to where you don't have to tell somebody or bring up something you did for them. Really, you looking for help, and you was hoping that y'all were close enough or had respect for each other enough that all you had to do is ask and they jump and be ready to help you. But it don't go like that. Don't go like that. That's why you have to pay attention and you have to plan and you have to execute for your own well-being, for your own peace of mind, so you can be stress-free. That's what it's about. You know, tools out there to help you think and plan. There's plenty of them. You got the internet, you got books, libraries. It's so much to research, and the thing about it is, it's all mathematics, right? You can research something, and you can break that research down into fractions, right? And then you can break that fraction down into a half, right? And then you can separate that half and work on that one integral part till you perfect that. Then you slide that half over and add and include that half into it, right? And you got that right. You know what I mean? Then you work that half into a whole. Now you got something completed. Now you're moving on to part 2. You know what I mean? So, what I'm saying is, things that you think of are your thoughts. It starts with the thought, or some say a magical thought. I don't know. Or the thoughts are magical because the thoughts produce in real time, something tangible that you can touch. And it all started from the mind. But it's a process. Don't give up, because it has to gather the material first, and then it has to shape itself. So it's a process. Then it has to get as close to what you visualized in your head in real time. That way you can recognize it when you see it, because you thought it. Sometimes we produce something, but we not half-heartedly. And when it shows up, we don't recognize it and walk right by it, because we wasn't there to get we wasn't there to relay the full instructions or details on how we wanted to turn out. And when I say that we wasn't there to relay it, meaning our mind wasn't really on it, because you have so many thoughts going through your head at one time. We didn't relax and get a clear visual in our heads of how we wanted it to be or come out, how we would want it to be, whatever. You think in your mind that you put out into the universe. Some say, look, man, I want me a wife. I want a woman. Okay. What type of woman do you want? You want a tall one? You want a short one? You want, what features, what so and so in your mind? Or do you just want any other woman? Okay, well, the universe send you any other woman. Some women be like, I want a man. What kind of man you want? You want a working man? You want a non-working man? You want a man that'll be a family man, or a man that didn't grow up in the family man? All those specifics, you got to put it in. You got to plug that in, in order for you to get the return. Right? I want a vehicle. What color vehicle do you want? What type? What model? 2-door, 4-door? You know what I mean? Gas guzzler, something that's going to save on gas. Something that what you can show out to your friends and drive on the weekend, or something that's incognito where you ride and get around the city and all that don't matter. I mean, you got to, but how can you know what to ask for if you don't know who you are as a person and what you like and what you want? You know what I mean? And things that, you desire for yourselves. If you don't know yourself, you don't even know what to ask for. So that's why so many people just take what they can get, and then they try to work a miracle by shaping something that they took what they can get into something that they want, and spend all that time and energy trying to mold it into something that they feel like they want, when they really didn't know what they want. But they be saying, well, I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want this. Okay, well then, if that's the case, either it had no value, or you couldn't recognize the value in it because you didn't know what you wanted. And if you don't know what you want, that means you can't recognize value anyway, because you don't recognize the value in who? You don't recognize the value in yourself. Now, okay, minorities in a racist society, I can understand, because your beauty is not highlighted. Your sisters, your color, your form, your hair, your whatever is not highlighted. But it's not white America's job to highlight your beauty. It's your own job. It's not white America's job to say dark skin is beautiful. The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. I say the darker the flesh and the deeper the roots. I give a holler to Zone Welfare. Yeah, co-black kills. Let's pop if don't nobody else cares. But nah, I'm just simply saying, you don't need other people to validate you, because it's not their job, and it's not in their best self-interest to highlight you and put their race down. Hell, it's not going to happen. You have to highlight you and love you. That's what you're on the planet for. Because think about it. It's only one you. God didn't make two of you. He don't make two of the same snowflake. So it's not two of you. You got your own unique gifts and talents that need to be explored and brought forth to the surface, and to share it with others. That's you. It ain't nobody else. You came here by yourself. You're going to check out by yourself. You know what I mean? So live your best life, in between the time you born and the time you check out. Don't spend your time saying, oh, I wish I did this. I wonder what this, man, if I had a chance to do it all over again, I would do this. I remember I used to say this all the time. If I had to do it all over again and I was back in school, I would be sitting in the front row of school. You know what I mean? I would be right in a teacher's face with a pen and pencil, some paper, some glasses, whatever. Say that again. You know what I mean? Instead of playing around and skipping school and, doing all shooting dice in the hallways, doing all kind of crazy things. Man, if I could do it over again, I'd be in the front row, wide-eyed, ready to roll, taking notes. What was them notes? I'd be having Roman numerals and ABC and period, 1, 2, 3, taking notes, all that subject matter, say that again, man, my hand stay up in the air, but you don't want to, be in that position to where, you're saying, damn, if I had just done it like this, or damn, wherever you at, start there and build. If you ain't, look, I don't give a damn how old you are, start saving. Hell, you have, trust me, you'll thank yourself. You have more money down the line than what you had today. Save. It's easy to make the money, but it's hard to keep it, man, because so much just be going on. But save your money, learn investments, whether it's real estate or what have you. But, meaning visualize the life you want to live and then get into those areas that can finance that for you. And strive that way. It's just so much, man. I mean, damn, if you can plant a seed in the ground and watch it grow and then a fruit come from it, then you take that fruit off the vine and you eat it and you taste that rainwater and that sunshine that nurtured it and you get that bit of electricity from that fruit or that vegetable or whatever. Life is real. Furrow Pick Radio, we're out.